Okay, so I hinted at this a little bit ago where we spoke about the Patrik Laine and Dougie Hamilton trade idea that was brought up over on the Twitter, but Patrik Laine isn't really the biggest quote-unquote trade story that we have going on with the Winnipeg Jets at the moment. That honor belongs to another youngster playing on the Jets. His name is Jack Roslovic, and you know who this guy is because he's a Winnipeg Jets RFA who has not signed a contract at the time of this recording. He's 23 years old, born in 1997, drafted in the 2015 NHL Entry Draft, 25th overall by the Jets. In the most recent season of play, he had 29 points in 71 games and 2 points in the postseason as a somewhat limited role center right wing. Now, Roslovic oozes potential. He's got a whole bunch of really good offensive capabilities. He's got a good frame. He's got a solid projectability going upwards in the NHL, but the problem is he plays for Winnipeg, where they're already having some problems with a guy with the name of Patrik Laine, who is one of the best young stars in this NHL today, because they have so many good forwards and not enough spots to sufficiently fill out the talent. So for Jack Roslovic, who is indeed an RFA who has not signed a contract, he will not be at Winnipeg Jets training camp when it starts today, actually, Sunday, yeah. His agent, Claude Lemieux, tells me, Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press, that the 23-year-old RFA is still in Columbus, awaiting either a trade or a new contract. Pierre LeBrun follows up, hey, his agent tells me tonight his client has indeed asked for a trade. So we'll see where this goes. So the agent Claude Lemieux has come out and talked about Jack Roslovic, the client, saying that the Columbus, Ohio-born forward is indeed requesting a trade. Most likely, in my opinion at least, this is my own speculation, for the same reason as to why Patrik Laine was requesting a trade or was in the market of being in a trade too. We already noted this, but Jack Roslovic does have some pretty good NHL potential long-term. If you're able to get this kind of guy and develop him in your top six, middle six, maybe second power play or whatever, down the line, you could have yourselves a very nice playmaker who can play on the right side as well, who has some very good offensive tools. But for now, at 23 years old, playing a limited amount of ice time on the Jets, you haven't been fulfilling that potential. So now we go over onto the fourth period, and this is a video which will take this article as its source. We're going to have another video later today also using this article because I said it before, but this article has so many good video topics where you go over onto David Pagnotta's website. This is the off-season trade watch list for 2020, and it's the top 25 most interesting players. This is as of December 27th, 2020. So it's pretty recent. It's literally January 3rd. It's January 2nd as I'm recording this video. If you scroll down and you take a look at all the players who are available or who might be potential options on the trade block, you can see number 16 and see Jack Roslovic's name of the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets were actively dangling Roslovic as trade bait in hopes of acquiring a defenseman at the start of the offseason. He is still an RFA and controllable, and it seems Winnipeg could re-engage in talks now that the season is set to open January 13th. And we have 4 teams on the market who are reportedly having interest in this player. They are the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Florida Panthers, the Minnesota Wild, and the Buffalo Sabres. Let's talk about all these teams right here, what they can do with a Roslovic, what the Winnipeg Jets would want and how they could potentially fulfill that potential, and whether or not it's an idea that you would personally explore too. Toronto is the first team listed over here, so let's go over them right away. Jack Roslovic, if you play him on a Toronto Maple Leafs forward core, what you're getting is pretty much a similar situation, if not a slightly improved situation. Winnipeg has one of the best top sixes in the NHL today. Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, Nikolai Ehlers, Patrik Laine, and Paul Stastny. That's tough to break if you're a Jack Roslovic, who is not in his prime yet, and who has more room to grow into that prime. Although you could debate the fact that he needs to grow is probably a reason to put him in there, but, you know, that's kind of why he hasn't been getting the playing time compared to what he probably could get on another NHL team. The Leafs are in a spot where their top 6 has Zach Hyman, Austin Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, and Ilya Mikheyev. The bottom 6 trails off significantly compared to that top 6, but if you really wanted to go out there and say, okay, Roslovic, you're going to come on to this team, we're going to play you on a third line alongside of a Joe Thornton or whatever, that could be a very intriguing opportunity. For sure, playing on a Joe Thornton line is probably better than playing with, I don't know, Adam Lowry. Like, Roslovic was playing sometime on the fourth line throughout the season as well, so anything is an upgrade over here. But the problem with this idea is that the Maple Leafs would indeed need to actually sign Roslovic if they ended up acquiring him, which would be somewhat of a problem because they currently have $0 of cap space. They are about $1 million-ish over the cap. Now, they have some guys they could probably put maybe on LTIR, maybe make another trade or whatever to actually even things out. But if you really wanted to get this done, you could just go out there and give the Winnipeg Jets exactly what it is that they want. And they want a defenseman. And so if you take a look at the Toronto Maple Leafs and their defensive depth, Muzzin, Riley, Brody, Hall, Bogosian, Lettinen, Sandin, and Dermott, you're not going to trade away Bogosian, you just signed that guy. You might not trade away Dermott, you just signed that guy too, although there is another debate to be had whether or not Dermott deserves a trade in the next few months. You're not going to trade TJ Brody, you're not going to trade Jake Muzzin, you're not going to trade Morgan Riley, that's it. Is it Justin Hall that you trade away? You just acquired that guy back in a trade. Is it Mikko Lettinen, who is a very nice free agent pickup you guys had? Or is it Rasmus Sandin, whom you're probably not going to touch? I personally would think there's room here if it's Justin Hall, going back the other way because he's a nice NHL caliber defenseman, but of course, modified no trade clause there indeed is a fit that needs to work out there if this trade is going to go through, but Roslovic playing in a middle six with the Toronto Maple Leafs certainly doesn't seem like a bad idea. Next team up here, we have ourselves the Florida Panthers, and they're a team that has indeed had their fair share of misfortunes over the past few years. They've had a lot of mediocrity coming in as well. Who knows if a Grigory Denisenko coming into their organization and Anton Lundell next season, maybe this season, who knows, could completely reinvigorate this Florida Panthers lineup. And hey, if you want to have a guy like Jack Roslovic, who does indeed have a whole bunch of potential going forward to play alongside a Wenberg and Hornquist maybe, Owen Tippett, who knows, there's an ability to do that. On D, you have yourselves a whole bunch of guys who may be valuable to the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, you just traded away Mike Matheson, so I don't know how willing you would be to trade away somebody else. You have Yandel over there, Strawman, who's making a lot of money, Radko Gudas, Nudavara, Mackenzie Weegar is over here too. Who knows if any of these guys are a fit? I think there's a little bit more of an opportunity here because if you take a look at the Florida Panthers and their overall cap space situation, they are not in the same boat that the Toronto Maple Leafs are. If you go over to the Panthers cap-friendly page, hey, they still have $6 million in cap space. Maybe they don't even need to trade away a defenseman to make it work under the money. Next up, though, it is indeed the Minnesota Wild. They're a team that does have a whole bunch of building to do because they just traded away Eric Stahl. They acquired Johansson. Sure, he's a good player, but he's not Eric Stahl. There are some spots up here for the taking with this Minnesota Wild forward core, and guys like Kaprizov, guys like Rossi, guys like Kevin Fiala are going to fill that up. So if you have a Roslovic maybe coming in there too, this could be a very good opportunity for a young Minnesota Wild team, or at least a team that should be becoming a lot younger over the years, to get that head start. You have some very good prospects. First off, Hovanov, you have Beckman, also in the WHL too. Whole bunch of very good NHL caliber prospects that I would think are going to crack this team in the next few years. And if you want to build that future with a Roslovic, hey, maybe the price is a Carson Soucy or a Greg Patterin or whoever you do have on your D-core that the Winnipeg Jets might want. The Wild do indeed have about $2.7 million in cap space, so that's a lot of room to work with, especially if you're re-signing a guy like Roslovic who does have that potential. And finally, we have ourselves the Buffalo Sabres. This one makes a lot of sense too because the Sabres are absolutely just cramming up all the talent they have. Eric Stahl, Taylor Hall, Cody Eakin, they have that Ristolainen and Dahlin pairing, they have Yoki Haru over there as well. They're in a position to add Dylan Cousins and Casey Middlestad to their full-time lineup. If they want to go all in, maybe a Jack Roslovic is a nice addition to that lineup. But I will say, the Buffalo Sabres top six is kind of stacked too. Like, on paper, it's not laughable like it had been in the previous few seasons. Look at this top six over here, man. Hall, Eichel, Olofsson, Skinner, Stahl, Reinhart. That is solid. You might have a similar problem in Buffalo as you do have with Winnipeg already if you're Jack Roslovic and you want playing time, but you know, again, playing on a third line with Cody Eakin, maybe a Kyle Pozo, maybe a Casey Middlestad, maybe a Cousins or whatever, probably beats playing on the fourth line with Winnipeg, but of course, you know, these opportunities are not guaranteed. As for a return, hey, if the Jets do indeed want defense, well, the Sabres do have a pretty good selection of NHL caliber defensemen. If you go over to their cap-friendly page, hey, Jake McCabe is over here, Colin Miller, he's very good, I like Colin Miller a lot. Brandon Montour, yeah, they're probably not going to touch him, probably not going to touch Dahlin either. Yoki Haru, they just just acquired. Matt Irwin is over here as well. There are some possibilities, but I don't want to say that their overall projectably tradable defense core is the most desired here. So when it comes to a Jack Roslovic trade, there certainly are options, but I want you to tell me in the comments below what you think about these 4 teams and whether or not they could be suitors for this kind of player. Is it Toronto? Is it Minnesota? Is it Buffalo? Is it Florida? Does Roslovic even get traded? And if he does, what is the return from any of these teams? Tell me in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.